Welcome to Neural Nectar. Today we are diagnosing a biological paradox, relaxation-induced anxiety. We're explaining why your brain treats peace like a threat. For decades, the whole conversation around self-sabotage, why we burn down our own success or ruin a good mood,
Mhm.
it's always been reduced to this really simplistic idea of low self-esteem.
Or just being a pessimist.
Right, or you're just a pessimist.
Hmm.
And that framing, it's not just unhelpful. I think it completely misses the sheer biological efficiency of it, the way we sometimes destroy something good.
Hmm.
So our mission in this deep dive is to get past that pop psychology. We're going into the neuroscience, specifically how that system designed to keep you safe, the amygdala, the nervous system, how it misfires when calm or success or, safety finally shows up.
And what's so fascinating is that it's not really about self-punishment. It's not
Right.
about feeling like you deserve pain or anything like that. It's fundamentally about homeostatic regulation. It's
Yeah.
predictive coding that's just gone wrong. So we're going to dissect two major concepts here. The first is relaxation-induced anxiety, or RIA. And the second is the constraints of the hedonic set point. Because you're absolutely right. For a nervous system that's been wired for chronic threat, the absence of stress doesn't feel like peace.
It feels like peace.
It registers as a dangerous, exposed vulnerability.
So we're talking about a nervous system that's so used to crisis that crisis actually becomes its default state of safety. Okay, let's start with RIA. Why would the physical act of unwinding, of relaxing, trigger a panic response? That seems so counterintuitive.
It does. It absolutely does. But the logic from a survival standpoint is, well, it's impeccable. We can actually trace this idea back to the early 1980s with researchers who noticed that people with high chronic worry actively avoid states of deep relaxation.
They avoid it on purpose.
Yes, they realize that for people who are just constantly on high alert, think general anxiety disorder or maybe just long-term high-stress environments, the actual physical sensations that come with a shift into a calm state, they're perceived as unsafe.
Okay, walk us through what those sensations are. Is it just like the heart rate slowing down?
It's the whole system shifting.
Yeah.
When you go from fight or flight to rest and digest, your breathing slows, muscle tension drops, your internal monitoring becomes less urgent.
Mm.
So if your brain is used to a, say, 9 out of 10 stress level being the baseline for being prepared, a sudden drop to a 2 out of 10 calm state triggers an internal alarm. The body doesn't think, oh, I'm safe now.
It thinks.
It yells, where's the threat signal? Why am I not prepared? I must have been caught off guard.
I think everyone has felt that. You finally take a vacation you desperately need, and instead of relaxing, you spend the first 2 days inventing a crisis back home or, just checking your email like a maniac.
That is the classic behavioral sign. The body interprets that lack of vigilance, that feeling of being unguarded, as the real threat. And to restore that perceived safety of readiness, the brain just, it triggers internal chaos. Yeah, intense worry, catastrophic thinking, sometimes even outright self-destructive actions. Anything that forces a return to that high alert, guarded state that feels familiar, and because it's familiar, it feels safe.
So the sabotage isn't about rejecting the good thing that happened. It's about rejecting the physical feeling of being unguarded that the good thing created.
Precisely. And this is rooted in a much broader concept that the research points to. The intolerance of uncomfortable internal states, or IU.
IU, okay.
This intolerance is highly correlated with anxiety disorders. It's not just physical. It's a dislike for uncertainty, a strong avoidance of emotional contrasts, and this is critical negative beliefs about your own ability to even regulate positive emotions.
Let's stick with that intolerance part for a second. If you have high IU, what's that internal experience like when you actually try to relax?
It's immediate catastrophizing. A regular person might feel their heart slow down and think, calm. Someone high in IU feels their heart slow down and their brain immediately goes, wait, is this shortness of breath? Am I having a panic attack? Is something wrong with me?
Wow.
So because they fear these internal shifts, they automatically slap a negative interpretation on them. It makes trying to relax scary and counterproductive. They'd rather just stick with the familiar hum of high anxiety than risk that unpredictable, uncomfortable state of trying to change.
This must also apply to high arousal positive states then, like excitement. When you achieve something huge or you start a new project you're passionate about, that feeling of anticipation is high arousal.
It is.
Is there a confusion there between excitement and anxiety?
Absolutely. They're both high arousal states. They both anticipate an outcome, and they share a significant physiological overlap. So for someone with high anxiety sensitivity, that intense feeling of excitement, the rush from a big career win, can be immediately misinterpreted by the system as anxiety.
the internal feedback loop just gets short-circuited.
It does.
Because if the physical feeling of a win feels almost the same as the physical feeling of a crisis, the system just defaults to the one it knows best, danger.
Exactly. So they subconsciously reject the win because that high arousal feeling is just too close to panic. The brain decides, okay, if I can't trust the calm and I can't trust the excitement, I have to maintain control. And it does that by staying in a reliable negative baseline.
Which brings us perfectly to the brain's proactive strategy for keeping that baseline. Dampening. This isn't passive, it's an active management strategy.
It is very active management. And it's specifically to maintain that emotional equilibrium. Research shows that people with high chronic worry consistently engage in low savoring zone, failing to appreciate or prolong a positive emotion, and high dampening.
What's dampening?
Dampening is when you actively minimize a positive emotion. You might suppress it or, and this is the most powerful way, you just generate new worries.
So I get some good news, and instead of just enjoying it for an hour, my brain immediately starts listing the 5 ways it could all go wrong next week. Why would the brain deliberately do that? Why reduce joy?
The strategic reasoning for that is outlined beautifully in what's called the contrast avoidance model. The core idea is that people avoid really positive or relaxed states, not because they fear the state itself, but because they fear the inevitable negative emotional contrast.
The drop.
The drop, that sudden, unexpected, and therefore really painful drop from a peak positive state back down to something negative.
So the brain it's pre-grieving. It's so terrified of the feeling of disappointment that it refuses to even let itself be happy in the first place.
That's the behavioral outcome, yeah.
Yeah.
But structurally, what's happening is that worry is being used strategically to sustain a negative affect.
So you worry to stay miserable.
In a way, yes. You maintain this kind of familiar, low-grade misery that acts as emotional insulation. It prevents you from being surprised or caught off guard by a bad turn of events. If you're already at a baseline of 4 out of 10 misery, well, the bad news won't cause a shocking drop from a 10 to a 0.
You'll only drop from 4 to 0.
Exactly.
I can see the terrible genius in that. If my default state is slightly chaotic, then I worry all the time to keep those positive feelings down, which mitigates how bad the eventual emotional freefall will be. So self-sabotage, like ruining a new, healthy relationship. That's actually an attempt to control the timing of the inevitable crash.
Precisely. It's an attempt to manufacture predictable pain, which the nervous system finds safer than unpredictable joy, followed by who knows what. Now let's zoom out a bit and look at the broader context here with the hedonic set point.
Right, hedonic adaptation. This is where the thrill of the new car fades or the excitement of the new job just becomes Tuesday. We get used to things.
Correct. It's a really powerful psychological process where we get accustomed to both good and bad things, and the emotional effect just wears off over time. But the critical part for our deep dive is the happiness set point.
Okay.
Research suggests that roughly 50%, half of the variance in our long-term happiness levels, is genetically determined. So the brain, through this relentless process of homeostatic regulation, is constantly fighting to return to that personal baseline.
So if you spent, say, 20 years in high-stress jobs and that whole process has lowered your emotional set point to this guarded, chaotic low, and then you suddenly find sustained success or real calm, your brain sees that success as a deviation, an anomaly.
It's treated like a physiological fever. It's outside the familiar regulated range, and the brain's homeostatic mechanisms will subtly or sometimes, very aggressively try to cure it.
Oh.
It creates problems. It introduces doubt. It generates internal chaos, all specifically to force a return to that negative familiar baseline. The brain will sacrifice positivity for familiarity and predictability every time.
And this whole mechanism is favored by our evolutionary wiring, isn't it? The negativity bias is why it's so much harder to adapt to consistent happiness than it is to consistent stress.
Oh, absolutely. The evolutionary negativity bias ensures that bad is stronger than good. We weigh negative events more heavily, we remember them longer, and they require our urgent attention because negative feelings signal danger.
And danger detection is what keeps you alive.
It's a critical, immediate survival mechanism. Positive feelings, on the other hand, just signal things are going well, which allows for a relaxation of vigilance.
Which is a lower priority for survival.
Much lower. Since relaxation is less critical for immediate survival than danger detection, the system is designed to adapt much faster to positive experiences, making that new job feel ordinary pretty quickly and much slower to negative ones. Your brain is prioritizing survival feedback over happiness feedback.
Wow. This completely changes the conversation about how you break the cycle. If our brain treats calm as unsafe and happiness as a temporary fever, then the solution isn't just affirmations or philosophy. It has to be clinical exposure. We have to literally retrain the amygdala that safety is not only survivable, but sustainable.
That is the therapeutic goal. It's genuine exposure therapy for positive emotion and calm. And since the nervous system is adapting too quickly to good things, the solution requires strategic, conscious, intentional activity.
And you've made a key distinction here. We adapt really fast to things that are static.
That is the key, yes.
Mhm.
We adapt rapidly to what we call circumstantial changes. These are the static one-time improvements.
Yeah.
The new car, the pay raise, moving into a nicer house. They feel amazing at first, but studies show the adaptation is often complete within 3 to 6 months.
The emotional boost is gone.
It's gone because the circumstance is now unchanging and predictable. It just becomes part of the background noise.
Yeah.
In contrast, dynamic activities, things that require persistent, varied effort, they slow that adaptation process way down. Think about learning a new language or taking up a hobby like hiking different trails or practicing a varied form of gratitude every day. They're episodic. They're not constant.
The activity itself is the variable, so you can't adapt to something that's always shifting.
That makes perfect sense. So we need to microdose relaxation and positivity to build tolerance. What are the practical steps?
Well, we can focus on 3 ways to forestall adaptation, to make our positive experiences dynamic. The first is what we can call attention enticing.
Meeting.
It means you continuously pay appreciative attention to the positive change. You fight the natural tendency to just take it for granted. So if you get a promotion, you don't just register the new salary as a static fact. You actively appreciate the contingency, the effort you put in, the colleagues who helped you, the fact that it was not inevitable.
You keep it fresh in your mind.
You keep it fresh, yes, instead of letting it get absorbed into the background.
Okay, so that shifts the focus from the outcome, which is static, to the process, which is dynamic. What's the second strategy? Making things dynamic and varied. Exactly. Since predictability is the enemy of sustained positive emotion, you have to make sure your positive experiences are varied. If you start a mindfulness practice, don't meditate the exact same way in the same chair every single day.
Mix it up.
Mix it up. Vary the focus, the location, the duration. If you practice gratitude, vary what you're grateful for. A person on Monday, a sensory experience on Tuesday, a long-term goal on Wednesday. An activity practice with variety is just inherently more stimulating.
And the third strategy is about novelty.
Yes, making experiences novel and surprising. Seek out experiences that generate unexpected moments. This is crucial because unexpected positive moments are harder for the cognitive system to just explain away, so their emotional punch doesn't fade as quickly.
So this means actively introducing spontaneity.
It does. New hobbies, trying different foods, planning new spontaneous things in your long-term relationships. It's about continuously seeking tiny, safe deviations from your norm.
And looking back at that hedonic set point, these intentional efforts, they're not just about feeling good in the moment. They are strategically designed to overcome that biological habituation.
They are critical retraining tools. By focusing on these dynamic, intentional efforts, you generate a persistent stream of positive emotions and events, and that slowly, gradually forces the homeostatic set point to shift higher. You are demonstrating to your ancient brain that sustained calm and success are, in fact, survivable.
And not a fever that needs to be cured.
Exactly.
That really is the core revelation we wanted to deliver. Self-sabotage. It isn't a character flaw. It's not a failure of ambition. It's an overzealous, outdated defense mechanism from a nervous system that mistakes preparedness for safety and treats success as a dangerous deviation.
We have to remember that achieving calm can be the easy part. Sustaining it is where the real fight begins. You have to actively show your system, day by day, that safety and joy do not have to equal vulnerability. It requires deliberately cultivating this dynamic, varied joy to counteract that powerful evolutionary bias toward fear.
Peace feels dangerous to a nervous system at war. It's time to sign a peace treaty with your own biology.